Jenkins is about content integration and content delivery. And first of all, I would like to say what is content integration. Is a concept in which everybody can merge the code to a central repository. In our case, is GitHub. Each merge will trigger a build in Jenkins. In our case, that build also trigger tests. And with those tests, it will minimize the probability of having an accident or of releasing something bad to production. So that's why the next point is the safety net that works as a measure against the accidental deployment of bad code. And is also where continuous delivery born. So continuous delivery basically is the automation of the content integration, is how we automate the release of new software and how we can eliminate the manual processes. And is also about allowing everybody to deploy a new release, usually by a manual process like shuttling. So what exactly is content distribution, content integration? Is a process, is not a tool. Your code is committed on GitHub, is pulled automatically by Jenkins, and built, testable, and tested in a reliable and repeatable manner. And finally, that's the manual process I was talking about, is to release the code publicly, and what we call in Marfield is the shuttle. So this is basically the flow that we have. So we build, we test, and then we deploy. We do the continuous delivery. So why we use continuous integration and continuous delivery, as I told before, is to minimize the risk of deploying bad code, to agile the deployment, because it's much better if everybody can pull the same code and work with the same code and release the same code, basically. And it allows more complexity on jobs. So instead of doing everything manually, we can do automated processes and we can manage them in the way we want. Also allows stages and concurrency, which is the next point, which is the pipelines. And first of all, what is a pipeline? And a pipeline in Unix terms is a sequence of computing processes like tasks, threads, etc. And is where each process can feed the next one. So we have an example there, and we have a pipe in Unix, which is a PS, a grep, a sort, and a more. So if you see the output of the first one, it will feed the second one, and so on, so on. So this is the concept of a pipeline. And also conceptually executed in parallel because we want to speed up things. So how we connect Jenkins and pipelines. So pipeline is basically what you see there. That is what you see now in Jenkins when it uses pipeline. And it's basically a plugin that allows us to integrate the continuous integration and the continuous delivery in Jenkins. This is good because this allows us to have code review and iteration as code. So now you have a file on your repository that you can change, you can analyze, and you can change the way you are building the code in Jenkins. So this is good because instead of using the UI, and nobody knows exactly how to use the UI, we have a single source of truth. We have a file, a text file, that has all the steps and all the configurations that you want to use to build your project. So this is, well, the reason why we use pipelines, to have the infrastructure as code with that text file that we will talk later, to not do complex configurations in the UI, and to have the configuration file committed on GitHub and accessible to everybody. So this is how Jenkins uses pipelines. This is the text file I was talking about, is an example. The Jenkins file uses the configuration that is in text file, is like a declarative syntax, which is the option that we chose. We can also do it in Groovy, but it's too much complicated. So we adopt this this declarative syntax that is much easier and much better to understand. And the important key here is that is saved along with the source code. So it's easy for everybody to do a pull of the repository and just check what we are doing on Jenkins. So this is the difference. So before we were using the white, like I was telling you, and this one is quite simple, it's true. But imagine that you have maybe 30 pieces of this in the Y, so it gets really, really complicated. So now we can have like this declarative syntax file that allows us to define everything in a much simpler way. This is another example, a little bit more complicated, but also is a good example how things can be easier to understand and better managed by the developers. So where is the Jenkins file? If you ask yourself, is always on the folder build.ci, and it's called Jenkins file, like I told before. And if you want to know more about it, you have a link here. There's a lot of directives that you can use, and just take a look and try things. We will have a demo that Juan Carlos will do at the end. So it's a good starting point. Other options that we have Travis, which is basically hosted by GitHub, and it works with GitHub. And it's also a good option. There are some companies that uses. We have Circle CI, which is uses workflows instead of a Jenkins file, but basically is the same thing. And basically the difference between this and Travis and Jenkins is that allow us to configure the amount of CPU that we want and the amount of RAM. And also it has cool dashboards, which is an important thing. And we have for instance, the Google version, which I try to look for some companies that uses it, but Google's always only tells that companies are using the Google Cloud Platform, so they are not specific with which product they are using, but we use it for Mbed. So we are one of the companies that use this. So our choice, as you already know, is Jenkins. And the reason why we chose Jenkins is, well, it's old, it's stable, it runs on a server that we manage, it has a huge amount of plugins, so everything you want to do, or most of the things you want to do, are already available as a form of a plugin that you only need to download and install. And for historical reasons, because Marshall was using Jenkins for a long time, and all the deployment process is think to be released and to be done with Jenkins. So that was maybe the biggest reason. And also because Jenkins allows us to do everything that the others allow us to do. So by changing the system, we will not gain anything. So we just kept with the one that we know, the one that was basically built, and that's it. Another thing that we introduced in Jenkins is Docker. So Docker is, I think everybody knows here, Docker is basically containers. It instructs the concept of containers. It's lightweight, standard, and secure because it allows us to run applications in an isolated manner. So why we use Jenkins with Docker, or Docker with Jenkins? Basically because we can parallelize, we can have simultaneous builds, which means that you don't longer need to wait 20 minutes for your build to start. You just push your code on GitHub, and your build will start immediately or almost immediately. And also because of isolation. So we don't need to worry about versions of software because all the container will born and will die with the build itself. So when you start the build, the container starts with all the configuration that you want. And when the build is done, the container dies, and that's it. So to show you the infrastructure that we have about the Jenkins cluster is basically this. So we have a Jenkins master. We have several nodes with complicated names, like Alentorn and Anya, which are the older ones. 4 Mac minis that the only purpose is to build applications. And now we have 4 nodes more. Now, maybe 6 months ago, I would say, that run with Docker. So by running with Docker is what I was telling before. For example, in Alentorn and Ani, you can have one build at each time. And with Docker, you can have more than one build at each time. So you can parallelize. So basically what I'm saying is resumed here. It's 4 nodes with 4 executors each, which are the Docker ones, which allow us to build 4 builds at the same time. 2 nodes, the old ones, with 1 executor that allow us to build only 1 project at the same time. And the reason we still have this one is for legacy purpose, because there are projects that still need to be built like this. And we have 4 nodes with 1 executor that only build the applications. And well, until now, we don't see any reason to escalate this because it's working quite okay. We don't build that many applications, so it should be enough for some time. And we have one master that rules everything, and it handles the shuttle. So every time you do a shuttle, the node that is working is the master. So to tell you a little bit of statistics and about building times, and you must be asking yourself, if Docker makes your build faster? No, it doesn't, but allow us to have more builds for the same time. So if one build was taking 10 minutes, now it's still taking 10 minutes, but it's taken 10 minutes for 2 builds, for example, because they will build in parallel. So this illustrates what I'm saying. So you have like the Jenkins and 3 containers that build Marfil XP at the same time. And in this way, we can build more things for the same amount of time. And also, it allows us to scalate better. So if we need, we can just add more executors, which means that we can add more Docker containers that can run at the same time. And we can also add new nodes. And because we are using Docker and we have everything defined in the file, this is very easy. We just add a node, and the Docker container will have all the configuration and everything needed to run the builds without any problem. So basically, we have already 18 projects migrated. These are the ones. I'm not going through all of them, but we have Gutenberg, for instance, which was a big project that now can run in parallel and faster. We still have 3 projects to be migrated: Alice Tenants, Pro Tenants, and Marfil XP. These are the biggest ones we need to migrate, and we will do it in the next few months, I would say. And that's it. Now Juan Carlos will show you how to do all of this.
Okay. Right now, I will share my desktop with you. We will do a small demo. We will create our own Jenkins server in a Docker in our laptop, and we will work over a small repository of code where we will have a small Jenkins file, and this architecture in our local machine will allow us to test our own code, create our own Jenkins file, and test it in local or working offline manner. In this demo, we will not use the Docker inside Jenkins, because we will not use the Docker inside Docker, because we will have our Jenkins server running in a Docker machine, and we will be able to put another Docker inside this Docker server. But in order to make it simple, we will do the Jenkins in Docker, and we will run a very, very simple Jenkins file in order to get the first steps on this, and go on after this by your own in this architecture. Then I will share with you my desktop, yeah. Share this one, share screen.
First, I did.
I will put in the Slack channel the URL of the code we will use. Then check out this clone this repo in your home directory. Okay. Then we will check out. I have already checked out the code. Then let's delete it. Yeah. Okay. Git clone. The repo here. Okay. CD local. Okay, what is this? We have Dockerfile. This is the Jenkins file we will use. A DockerCompose and a directory host template, hooks template. We will talk about this later. And this Dockerfile and this DockerCompose is what we will use to start our local Jenkins server. Okay. Then, yeah, the Dockerfile. It's a very simple Dockerfile. It's based on the default Docker image, Jenkins Docker image, and we do an update and upgrade and install Maven because our code, our project is a very small Java application that says hello world. And because we don't use Docker inside Docker, in this case, we don't use Docker inside our Jenkins server. We need to install Maven in our server. If we use Docker inside our Jenkins server, we can use Docker images, and it's not necessary to install any kind of software in our Jenkins server. Okay. Then in DockerCompose is a very simple DockerCompose 2. We create a local Jenkins container. We build this container based on our Dockerfile that we have in our root directory, in the root directory of our code. We expose the Jenkins server in port 8787, and we save all information. We will change the Jenkins configuration, in our Jenkins server configuration in this volume. Then if we stop and start the Jenkins container, our server, we can have the same configuration that we have before we start. If we kill or remove the container, we lost this information, but when we start the container, we can have the configuration. Okay, then you can, you can access the README of the repository, and here we explain the whole process to get this demo up and running. Then if you want, we can follow this demo and try to start the Jenkins and our first job based on Jenkins file. We already clone the code. Then let's start the Jenkins server. Okay, we already be here. Then DockerCompose, yes. We don't have any Docker running. Docker app -d. We are saying to Docker that uses this Dockerfile and start this container and put it in background in a daemon mode. This, if we don't have the Jenkins Docker image, the default Jenkins Docker image, Docker will get this image from the Docker hub and download it and build. Let's do it, and we show you how this Docker, yes, okay, Docker image, yes, this one, Docker rm. Okay, and this one, that this is the default Jenkins Docker Jenkins image. Let's delete it. Then when this finish, I will now have the default Jenkins image and know the local my local Jenkins image built. Then if we try to put up the system, yeah, right now it is downloading the default Jenkins Docker image. When this finished, we will build our local Jenkins image with the Maven install update this one. Okay, we run this, and then we will start this new Jenkins image. I don't know if some of you have this local Docker container up and running. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is the update and the upgrade. And after this, we will access to this new container and run some commands inside in order to access to our local laptop in order to get our code. Yeah, then DockerCompose, yes. Okay, this is our local server of Jenkins, and we can try to access to our Jenkins in localhost 8787. Okay, we will return to this page soon. Now we will access to our local Docker, Jenkins Docker, with this command, with DockerCompose exec, and okay, right now we are inside the Jenkins, our Docker, and we will try to allow the SSH access from this Docker to our laptop, because we want that Jenkins access to the code we have here. The Jenkins can get the code we will edit and change we can change our Java app, or we can change our Jenkins file, and Jenkins will get these changes and clone this code in local and run the job. This is something that we do in the production Jenkins, but we configure this in GitHub or Bitbucket or your Git provider. You can configure that when you do a commit, merge, PR merge, this action triggers an action in the Jenkins, and Jenkins runs the job. Then let's configure. We will generate a SSH key. Enter. Okay. And we will copy this SSH key to our laptop. This host.docker.internal is a special magical DNS entry that Docker creates in order to access the host, the laptop. This resolves to the laptop IP. Yes. Oh, my user, no. Sorry. We have to put here our user. Okay. You can get your user here. Go to the system preferences, sharing, yeah, and in remote logging, please verify that you have this check. Okay, and you can see here your user. You can use this IP, that is the real IP of your laptop, or you can use this DNS entry. Okay. Then we put our password.
Just one thing, if you have troubles copying the SSH keys, because you need to allow the SSH on the
here
on the settings.
Here. And if you have problems with this DNS, you can use the real IP. Okay. You can get the real IP here in this configuration screen. This is a local test. We can change this in the future. Okay, here we are. We connect from SSH through SSH to our laptop. Okay, that's okay. Then right now we can connect to our laptop without password. Okay, we need to verify that because we need to verify that it's working, because Jenkins will connect to our machine to SSH to get the code, and it's an unattended process. Then we need to access without password. Okay, then we leave the container. Is this working for everyone? Yeah? Then let's continue. This is the verification. Okay, we need to connect through SSH with our user and our local laptop IP. Test it and exit. Okay.
Yeah.
How many of you have problems with this?
I have key verification. I have now
Share. Okay. Sharing. Okay. That is SSH all of those. Okay. Go to the console. Yes. 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 Your password here. Maybe. Okay. Yeah. It's working?
Yeah, but yes.
Okay. Then try to connect to the SSH. This one, something like this. Okay. This process, this SSH connection, is to allow Jenkins to get the code. Usually, you configure this through GitHub or Bitbucket, and you can get the code through SSH or through HTTPS. Okay, behind the GitHub, there are a lot of servers with the code, and is it's a server with SSH or with HTTPS access. Yeah, this is SSH, and this is HTTPS. We are doing something similar to this, but getting the code not from GitHub. We will get the code from our own local laptop. Okay. Then let access to localhost 8787. Then this administrator password is something that we can get from the logs of our Docker, Jenkins Docker. Is this key. Can get it with DockerCompose logs. And we need this because it's something that this Docker image does when it bootstrap. Then we put this key here. Then we verify that we are who we are. And right now, we will customize our Jenkins. We need the pipeline plugin, the Git plugin, and other plugins. Then the suggested plugins is a very good choice. Then we select this, and this is the plugin that we need. It's one. There are a lot of other plugins. This takes more or less 1 minute, 2 minutes. And after this, we will create 2 users. One admin user or one user for us to access to the Jenkins server through the GUI, and another user that we will use when we change and commit our code here in our local repository. Then when we change our code and make a commit, we will run a small script that makes a CURL to our Jenkins server in order to say, hey, Jenkins, I have changed my code. Please get it and run the job. Okay. Then, okay, let's create the admin user. Let's mref admin. You can put the name wherever you want, but password 123 and password 123. The full name mref admin, and the email address this one. Okay. Save and continue. Oh. I did something wrong. Okay. Our Jenkins URL, this one is okay. And start using Jenkins. Okay, we have our local Jenkins up and running. This is to get the initial password. This is to verify the security. Yeah, this is important because we have to disable this security option, because in our Git hook script, we do a CURL, but it's a very simple CURL, and because this is our local Jenkins server, we don't need to have this protection, okay? Cross-site request, this is a configuration that avoid that someone that is not you or something that you know try to get to make requests to your Jenkins. Okay, this is a configuration that you with your CURL or your requests to the Jenkins API, you have to put some header, authentication header, in order to allow access. Then we disable this right now, save it, and we will create the local user. This is the user we will use in our hook script from our Git repository. Okay. Then we will create user. This is the user, local Git user. The password is password with the first in capital. This one, password 123. Okay. Because this information is in our small script. Password 123. Name, Git, and email address the same. We create the user. And right now we have two users. The admin user, this one. Okay, and the local Git user, that is the user we will use in our local hook. Okay, then, right now, we have to create our first job. Our first job that it will be based on our Jenkins file, okay? Then we will create a pipeline demo job. That is the job we have configured in the hook 2. Then we create a new item. We put the pipeline demo. We choose the pipeline type. Okay. And we create the pipeline. Then let's do configure this pipeline. Right now, we have to configure our job in order to say, hey, please go to this repository and get the code and use the Jenkins file that is inside the repository and run the actions that this Jenkins file tells you. Okay. Then we create a new project. We choose the pipeline type. We create it. Then we will configure the SCM type of this one. The SCM type. And we will select the pipeline script. That is this script from SCM. Okay. Then The SCM is Git, because we have a Git repository in local in our laptop machine, but this is a Git repository. And this repository URL is very, very important because we have to enter our name, our host. That is something that we can get from here. This is our name, our host. Then we can put it here. Then column and the name of our repository. Okay. We don't need to put the entire path, because when we SSH to our laptop, by default we landing in our home directory. Okay, and we put this here, and no credentials, master. We can get the branch we want, but we get branched, we get master, and this is important. Okay, the script path is where the Jenkins file is located. Here we have the Jenkins file in the root of our repository. Okay, in production or in Marfil projects, we have the Jenkins file in build/CI directory. Okay, but this is something we can configure here. We can tell Jenkins in this job where our Jenkins file is. Okay, then we save it and try a fake build. Right now, our Jenkins server is connecting our laptop through SSH, getting the code, reading the Jenkins file, and doing the things that the Jenkins file is telling. Okay, and we can see the Jenkins file here. It's a very, very simple Jenkins file. Is the pipeline, the stages, 1, stage 2, 3, 4 stages. In the first one, we run a command line others to echo, and then we run the Maven clean and package. In the test stage, we run Maven test, and in this stage, after the first step, we run a post step that is JUnit, and in the last one, we run the deliver, that is we run a script, a very, very simple script. If you can see the script here, deliver. We run some Maven commands and we execute the jar. Okay. Then returns to here.
Wait, I think we all have the same problem, which is the repository root is not connecting to the.
Yeah, how to say? Set up the IP and the host, Docker, internet.
Yeah, I tried with both, but it's not working.
Yeah, on the Obispo. When you put the local repository.
Maybe the problem was here. Yeah. Maybe there are problems with the SSH.
I guess it's relative to your home directory. Where did you install the?
Yeah, where do you clone the code?
It's relative to the home.
Yes. Yes, it's very, very important to clone the code here in the home.
Is there a way to make a symlink or?
Yeah, you
just put the folder on Jenkins in which you have, and
yeah, or you can put the folder.
This is my folder.
You can put the
Jenkins, and here.
or you can put the whole path, the entire path in the job configuration. Yeah, here. Type demo configure. You can put here. Here. You can put the whole path here. Okay.
Here you're outside. It's in the companies.
Copy paste again. And why do you have 172? Okay. This is everything.
Yeah. It's okay.
It's okay.
yeah.
Yep.
No.
Yes.
Okay. Then right now we will configure our local repository in order to run a hook, a post commit hook. Then when we change our code and commit it in our local repository, we trigger this hook, and this hook will go to the Jenkins server and run our job. Okay. Then we have a sample script here. This is the sample script. It's a very, very simple script. Here we have the user we created before, the password, and the name of the job. And this is a very, very simple CURL in order to run our job. Then we put this CP. We have the command here. This one. We copy this script in the hooks directory. Okay. We make it executable. Verify it. Okay, executable, okay, perfect. And we can try it, okay? Let's try it. build triggered successfully. Then if we go to our Jenkins server, here we are. Here we are, we have our build running. Then let's check what happened if we made some change in our code. src main Java app Java. And let's put a new line. Okay, it's a very stupid change, but then git add git commit a change. Then right now we will trigger our post commit hook. Then if all works fine, we have our build here. Okay, running what we said in our Jenkins file. Okay, and right now,
What did you do?
right now, we will force a fail. We have a test here that verifies that the output of this Java app is hello world. Okay, then we will comment this line and activate this line. Okay, save it, git add, git commit. Right now, this trigger another pipeline. This pending right now is running. Initialize, build, and here in test, we will have our error because we are verifying that our app says hello world as the output. Green, red. Okay, now it's red. Okay, this is the test. Okay, and we are verifying that the output is hello world, and we get the failure here because we don't get hello world, we get hello world. Okay, we can see the output here and here. This is the stage checkout, initialize stage, the build stage, and the test stage. And here we get the error, tests failure. Okay, failure test message is not hello world. Then this is a small demo and that show you how to use your local repository, your local Jenkins file, and your own Jenkins server
in order to test and verify your code, or create a new Jenkins file and test it before you push your code or your Jenkins file to the remote repository, and where the production Jenkins file will get the code from the remote repository and run the same pipeline, the same code that you create in your Jenkins file. Okay, and that's all. More slides. More slides.